My name is Waddington. In this video I want to talk about false accusations of sexual assault. There's a debate going on right now in the media and amongst lobby groups and lawyers about false accusations. Now in the media they try to say that there are no such things as false allegations. There is a great effort by lobbyists and sexual assault awareness groups to show that they don't exist. Rather than just embrace the facts and the truth that they do exist, some will come out and say that it's such a small percentage we shouldn't even worry about it. My position is whether it's 1 out of 100 or 50 out of 100 or 100 out of 100, one false accusation of rape or sexual assault can devastate someone's life. It can destroy their family. It can cause them severe financial harm, psychological harm. It can lead to suicide. It could lead to them being shunned, losing their job. It could end up having them go to prison for many, many years and dying in prison, getting killed in prison. It has a lot of negative repercussions, all for something that's not true, that's false. What bothers me is that the military has gone through great lengths to prove and show that there is no such thing as a false accusation. And if you read the Fort Hood report, there's a section in there about false accusations. And there's a perspective of a lot of soldiers and sailors and airmen, Marines out there that there are false allegations. And that became part of the report. One of the things that they came up with is this idea that false accusations don't exist, with the idea that if they get that in front of all the commanders and potential jurors, when the defense lawyers poke holes in the government's case, then they'll think back to, wait a minute, I read the Fort Hood report and they said they don't exist. They're so rare. They're 1%, or I've heard even like 0.5%. Frankly, it's not even relevant. And here's the reason why. Can you really tell if something was false? You have a couple ways to judge that. You could say you have 100 allegations and the woman went forward and testified in court 100 times. She was willing to go forward regardless of the outcome. We're not going to question her, so all those 100 times are true. So let's say that 50% of those people were convicted and 50% were acquitted. Does that mean that there's a 50% false accusation rate? No. There could have been people convicted that were actually innocent. So whether someone is convicted or not doesn't mean that it was false or that it was true. The government could have charged them the wrong way. The government might have screwed the case up. The person could have flat out been a great liar and convicted someone who didn't do it. So by saying that, oh, the acquittal rate is 50%, that means half the allegations are false. That argument doesn't work either. The FBI and other agencies have said, well, we're going to look at recantations. So if someone absolutely recants, then we're going to say that was a false allegation. Well, here's the problem we've been seeing with that is even if someone recants, doesn't mean that it was a false allegation. It doesn't mean that it wasn't. We see in a lot of domestic cases, people recant things that actually happened. It's not a good data point to be able to determine whether or not allegations in general are false or not just because someone recants. Another thing that people look at is they say, okay, law enforcement said the allegation was unsubstantiated. Well, that doesn't mean that the allegation was not true or was true, because many cases are brought forward where there's just not evidence, time has passed. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. So again, we're with this ambiguity of figuring out whether an allegation is false or not false. The other thing you have to look at is, what if someone accused the wrong guy, and so it's a false allegation. They went to a jury and the jury convicted the guy with the proof. So now we have a conviction. What does that mean? According to the government, in most government studies, that would be a true allegation, when in reality the guy was not guilty. Either way, there's no way to determine this, especially when people have motive. One of the things that I've been seeing a lot of in the past 2 years is incentive programs incentivizing people to make false allegations. So, for example, if you make an allegation, you will get X amount of money, you will get special treatment, you will not lose your job, you can get paid for the rest of your life potentially 100% service-connected disability. That's a big incentive for people to make allegations. And this is where the recantation problem is problematic, because if you say we're only going to look at recantations, well, who's going to recant a allegation when they put someone in jail for something they didn't do, when they ruined a guy's life? And if you're mentally ill, you're histrionic, borderline, or have some other psychiatric problems, or you're just a vindictive, terrible person, you are never going to come forward and say, you know what, thank you, government. I appreciate the $3 million in benefits you're going to pay me until the day I die, including educational benefits, preferential job treatment. And these are not only in the military, these are in some states where you get money for making an allegation. So they de-incentivize people from telling the truth. And sometimes when the government comes to these people that make a false allegation, say, hold on, we found a serious problem with your story. We found messages between the two of you that refute your entire story. The person very rarely recants. And they'll come up with a reason, because a lot of times they have their own lawyer too, because a lot of money's at stake. And they'll just change the story. And so then that goes back into the pile of truthful allegations. Because you think the government's going to honestly come out and be like, we put 400 men in prison for those allegations, and 30% of them are actually not true. We don't know which ones, but based on our data, a lot of them are not true. What if they were to do that? What if the government was going to come out and say, like, you know what? We threw these people in prison last year for something they didn't do. And then there's a question of, okay, how did that happen? Was the prosecution corrupt? Did they do something illegal? Did their law enforcement do their job? And they can get sued. There's a lot of lawsuits out there. When you hear about these people getting set free from jail that were falsely accused and went to prison, there's usually millions and millions of dollars of settlements, lawsuits that follow that. And a lot of the lawsuits that are out there, the government fights. So let's say you get someone in jail for a crime they didn't commit. They spent 5 years in prison for rape they didn't commit. We now know that they didn't do it. There's evidence they didn't do it. The government is not going to just bend over backwards and be like, I'm sorry, here's $5 million in compensation for destroying your life. No, they will usually fight it, and they will stick to the original story, even if you have DNA to disprove it. Going back to the beginning, false allegations, how common are they? How exaggerated are they or not? We don't know, and we're never going to know. But I just want you to be skeptical and understand that when you hear these numbers at training or on the media, that only 1 or 2% of allegations are false, those numbers are based on faulty assumptions, faulty data, and or very rigid data, such as only 100% recantations count as false allegations. It doesn't mean that the allegations, that the other ones were not false, and as well as convictions don't mean that an allegation was true. As we know, people have been convicted of crimes they didn't commit for various reasons, and if someone's willing to lie and perjure themselves to put you in prison, then you're in a lot of trouble, because it's very difficult to cross-examine someone who's a vindictive, pathological liar. Believe me, if the person's ready and willing to lie to put you in prison, especially if the person is a cute or attractive, sympathetic female who's completely lying, you have a high chance of them believing the victim and you ending up in prison for a crime you didn't commit, just based on her testimony alone. So don't be sitting here thinking, oh, all they have is her testimony. There are tens of thousands of people sitting in prison right now based on the word of people, the word of one witness, or the word on two witnesses. So don't be thinking that, oh my God, they don't have any evidence, all they have is her statement. That is plenty to get you convicted. So be careful and take these things very seriously.